Angel Group still part of the lawsuit?
Yes, they are. Angel is still part of the lawsuit. They indicated at that conference that they will be filing a motion to dismiss. And for various reasons, the most significant being that we sued them, that's why they have been removed as the actuary. Obviously, if you read the complaint, you saw some of the allegations, and so it was not only appropriate but prudent to replace them with GRS.
Well, I was wondering why all of a sudden they changed their mind to cooperate. That's why my question was addressed that way.
Well, I will say that if you ask Angel, they will tell you that they didn't change their mind to cooperate, that we just misinterpreted their message to us. Putting aside the interpretation of the message, I believe that their counsel recognizes that the two things are not connected. They are mutually exclusive. The fact that I have filed a lawsuit against them for actions or inactions that they took prior to and leading up to the 2014 transaction is different than the information regarding you and your pensions and applications belongs to you and this plan, and you need to give it to GRS. So don't confuse meaning Angel, don't confuse the two. The lawsuit is separate from the fact that you need to hand the information over and hand it over in an organized and complete form. And again, putting aside interpretation as to the communications between myself and them, their counsel, me, GRS, and Angel all got on the phone together and had about an hour-long conversation to say, this is what we need, this is what the priority is in terms of get us this stuff first, this second, this third, and here's the time frame that's reasonable. And I'm happy to report that that's been, it has gone without much issue since that phone call.
Do you know how much money every month or yearly is going back into the pension and the interest getting made? Is it 5.5% still?
Well, that's the 5.5 is a projected rate. So over the life, we gauge it on a 10 to 20 year investment kind of field. And so we hope, what we say is that we hope to average over that 10 to 20 year period about 5.5% growth. It varies from year to year. You can have one year where you have 9% growth, and you can have a year where you have negative growth. So it goes with the stock market. Over the past year, we've had growth, which is why when I came in August of 2017, we had approximately $85 million, and we pay out, at that time we were paying out approximately $850,000 a month. And a year later, we're only down by about $2 to $3 million. So if you do the math, that shows that the investment income has been substantially supporting the draw on the assets. To spend approximately $11 million a year and to only be down $3 million at the end of a year, it shows that we've had some growth and some consistency with our investments. Unfortunately, neither I nor anybody could guarantee that type of performance long term. As you know, the market goes in cycles, and we left a very strong cycle into a more volatile, I'm not going to say weak, but it's a more volatile cycle right now. And as of right now, we are down slightly, but again, these are long-term projections. So to look at it month by month or quarter by quarter, it's going to look bad sometimes. But from January through, I believe it was June, we've had growth. It just has not been as strong as it had been the prior 6 months to a year. So if we had $7 million worth of growth last year, we might be looking at about 4 to 5 this year, or maybe even less by the time December comes around. Is that, okay.
Steve, do you have a date for the September hearing?
We do not, we have not scheduled a date yet because the judge was on vacation, and when he's on vacation, his clerk goes on vacation. So we have not yet knocked down a date yet.
Will you be posting the defendant's motions themselves on the site?
Same as everything else, to give everybody that's involved in this case as easy a time as possible to see what's filed. Every time something gets filed with the court, unless it is filed under seal for some reason, which means that only the judge can see it, it'll be posted on the website as quickly as we can get it up there. As soon as we get notice of it, an email goes to our counterpart at the firm to post it on the website, and it gets posted usually within a few hours. Yes?
So you've been in receivership for 1 year, and with the initial recommendation of a 40% reduction in benefits, which you've been able to put off. So the people that are collecting have enjoyed a whole year of no effect on their pension. So and I'm not collecting yet, and what about the people who are not eligible to collect yet? If it happens that we start collecting around the time that the boom gets lowered and there is a reduction, are we going to incur that reduction from the beginning of collecting our pension, or will we retroactively get to collect for however long everybody else has been getting their pension at 100%? I mean, just food for thought.
Yeah, unfortunately, the timing, if there are cuts, the timing of those cuts and the timing of when you receive benefits if you were to apply, if you become eligible and apply, and I'm not saying I'm going to do this, but if I implement a cut on December 1 and you qualify for a payment on December 1, your payment will be whatever it is less whatever the cut is. So there won't be any, you'll get retroactive to the extent that there's retroactive, if your election, if you were holding on to the election, let's say for 6 months. You'll get retroactive, but it'll be based on that cut. So it'll be whatever the cut is at that point will be how it's calculated.
So there's no reason for anybody to put off applying for benefits if they're eligible.
Well,
Without suggesting there should be a run on the plan, but
I mean, that's everybody has to make their own decision as to what risk they're willing to take and whether or not, you become eligible for benefits at 55. But the amount of the benefit that you receive at 55 is substantially less than what you'd receive if you waited till you were 65. So I can't give anybody advice on what they should or shouldn't do in terms of the plan. I can tell you that the term you used, a run on the plan, would not be a good result for the plan, and that would force the issue of the need for some type of adjustment, if it's possible. But again, it's those that have applied, I don't question why they did, and those who haven't, I don't question why they haven't. Everybody's got to make their own decision and kind of test their own circumstances and their own tolerance for risk and what we can or can't do here. Any other questions? Yes.
Sorry.
No apologies.
2.2 million for the Rhode Foundation that they're holding. Do we also get the interest all of this time that we're losing out? That could have been our money?
The problem with that is that the question would become is who do we get the interest from? Because like I said, well, the Rhode Island Foundation has been holding it pursuant to a court order. And if they return it, they're returning what they received. It's unlikely. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's...
Prospect. They're the ones that gave you money.
There's a potential that we could add it to the damages with some of the other defendants. But at this point, and I'm not saying that I'm satisfied, but I'll be happy getting the 8.2 less the year and a half, 2 years of interest on it, because that's better than not getting it at all. I also want to make sure that everybody understands that there is a scenario where we could get none of that money, where the court says, I don't think that I was misled, and I don't think that people misrepresented anything to me. Or there's a possibility that the court says these funds actually shouldn't have gone to the Rhode Island Foundation. They were characterized as restricted, but they shouldn't have been, and so those should have gone into the plan. But these other funds were, and that was proper to put them with the Rhode Island Foundation. So we're looking at a recovery potential from 0 to 8.2 million. And at this point, I have no idea. We haven't even been allowed to intervene yet. So I don't have any idea as to what the arguments would be by anybody as to why all of the funds shouldn't come back versus some versus none. But it's that range. And as far as interest goes, you can't really look at the interest piece until you know what you're getting back. 12% interest on 0 is still 0. 12% on 4 is a lot different than 8, and so on and so forth. And I'm using 12% just as a number, not that that's what we get for interest.
I don't want you to take this the wrong way, or this meant no disrespect to you. We all appreciate what you're doing. But I think a few court hearings ago, it's difficult to hear back there, but I thought I heard some figures as far as attorney fees, and I'm just wondering, where does, I mean, I know you're not doing it for anything, and I don't really want to know how much you're making, but I guess I'm asking, where is the money coming from? And if this goes on for a year or longer than that, where would the money be coming from for the attorney fees?
Okay, no, that's a fair question, and I'll answer in the following ways. As far as special counsel is concerned, Attorney Wistow in his office, now that we have filed the complaints, he is no longer getting paid by the hour. He's on a contingency basis. So the only monies that will be paid to that firm going forward from me will be the hard out-of-pocket costs. To the extent that there is a settlement, then he would be submitting an application to be paid based on the contingency amount. And we built into that engagement that the court can adjust that number up or down depending on what the court thinks is fair. So from the special counsel standpoint, you've seen the last bill be submitted to the court for an hourly fee on special counsel's work. My work is billed by the hour, and we'll go in. The court has now put it on a every 2-month schedule. The more that the litigation goes, the less involved I get in that. I monitor as opposed to actively involved. I was more actively involved in the beginning, but less so now. And I'm dealing with more the management of the assets and issues dealing with the PBGC and ERISA and things like that. To this point, up to this point, the funds that have paid both my fees as well as the special counsel's fees have come from funds that were being held by Roger Williams Medical Center, so the shell entity. I don't want to mislead you, and I've said this in other meetings. That money is not coming from the plan assets that are invested and that are supporting the benefit payments to those receiving them right now. But ultimately, at the end of the day, it's 6 of one, half dozen of another. We believe the money that's being held by Roger Williams Medical Center and Old St. Joe's, so the two old entities, is money that belongs in the estate and belongs in the plan. So whatever money they're holding, we will try to collect and then put it into this plan. If they're holding $10 million, then we put $10 million in. If they're holding $8 million, we put $8 million in. Right now, the fees, my fees and special counsel have been paid by the monies they're holding. So if they're holding 10 today and we take 500 tomorrow, there's only 9.5 to go in the plan. So while the money isn't coming directly out of the plan today, it is coming from a source that we hope to recover from to supplement the monies that are in the plan. So I just want to make sure it's clear. They're not coming out of the plan, but at the end of the day, it's whatever I get paid will reduce the amount that goes into the plan from those funds. Sure. I'm going to take this one first, right?
I'm under the impression that one of the schools is not part of the plan, that they actually paid off to get out of the plan.
You're talking about
For
the teachers.
The teachers. Is that known? And how can that happen? Like, I would be elected to come out of it myself.
Again, it's a different situation than we have here. It is known. There are actually at least two schools. There might have been. And again, I don't want to spend a lot of time because I'm not really involved, but I'm aware of at least two schools that opted out of that plan a few years back.
But they had been in it.
They had been in it.
And then they removed, as they know the plan was doing badly.
They suspected it was doing badly and would continue to do badly. They did have to pay, from what I understand, a substantial amount of money to exit the plan. I believe one of the schools is LaSalle,
Yeah.
and I believe LaSalle had to pay about $14 to $16 million to get out of that plan. And
Why did it get paid too?
well, it was to transition over, as well as because now they were on their own. They were basically saying we don't want to be part of the diocesan plan.
So it went to the diocese.
Some of it went to the diocese as an exit amount, and some of it went to establish the new plan for that school. At the time, it was a very expensive and a very risky prospect, but it doesn't look as bad today. It doesn't look as bad of a decision today.
And how did they get that information if the plan was going down the tubes, because nobody else seemed to know about it?
That I don't know. I do not know. I don't know how the transition of those came out.
Did we look into that?
I have not looked into it because it has nothing to do with this, and I need to focus my energy on this plan. Two completely separate.
Yeah, but I mean, if they got a heads up, how did that happen? If the church gave the heads up, it's kind of protecting, in my eyes, their own. And not giving it out, it's kind of like, I don't know, the stock market giving insider information.
Yeah, I don't know the circumstances surrounding those participants in the plan and the information they had and didn't have. So I just don't know, and I don't want to speculate. Okay.
What I wanted to know is, with this lawsuit, is it an issue or part of the lawsuit that the fact that the union had a contract, and if they weren't putting money in, then there was a contract for our pension? Is that an issue?
Well, as you know, I'm not the only named plaintiff in that lawsuit. We have individual members of your group that are named plaintiffs in the case. The reason for that is we've got some that are from Arlene Violet's group, we've got some from Jeff Castle's group, and we've got some from the union. And that's to cover all of those bases. So to the extent that there is what you're talking about is a breach of contract claim that the union might be able to bring, but that somebody could argue maybe I don't have the right to bring because there's no contract that I was a part of. That's why those parties have been named as well. So to the extent that we have a claim that is, like I said, a breach of contract, to avoid a defendant saying, wait a second, the receiver doesn't have the ability to bring that claim because he wasn't a party to a contract, we can say, oh no, but this person was, and they're a union member, they were a union member at the time, and they've got the right to bring that claim. So that's why we added those multiple defendants, so that we could create a class which was comprehensive enough to cover all the different interests that could be pursuing any potential claim against these various defendants. Okay. Any other questions?
So the next advisory meeting is going to be after the court date in September?
You mean the smaller advisory committee meeting? Most.
I'm not serious. That would be advisory committee. We'll be probably meet now after September's court date. We're taken?
Most likely. And part of the reason for that is I need GRS to get up to date and to confirm information that we have been given by Angel. Again, not necessarily to the extent that a member of Angel is either here or listening or anything like that. It's not to suggest that they did an improper calculation, but now that I have a new actuary in place, it's just prudent to ask them to double check the math. And so until I have all of that data confirmed and vetted, it's probably not going to be worthwhile. As the members on the advisory committee know, we look at that information a lot, and if it's not right, it kind of throws off the discussions. So maybe beforehand, but I need to give GRS time to make sure that they take care of the processing of applications and benefits and things before we start getting into do a hypothetical calculation for me. Okay. Sure. But the good thing is that if the advisory committee meets often, that's a sign that we're in a little bit of trouble. So the fact that I'm saying the advisory committee may not be meeting, say that again? So the fact that the advisory committee is not on like a 2-time-a-week schedule right now, or even a every 2-week schedule, is not a bad thing. Okay. All right. Yes, ma'am. How do you contact them? Do we have their?
I can give you their phone number.
Julie can provide the phone number. It's also, there is a notice posted on the website, which has their phone number as well as, I believe, the name and email of a contact person there. Her name's Kristen?
Kristen Stafford.
Kristen Stafford. So if you go on the website, there's a notice.
Your what?
My website. There's a notice on there which gives you that information. And if it's not on there, you can't find it, if you just shoot an email or give us a call, we'll be happy to give it to you. Anything else? Any other questions? With that, as always, I want to thank everybody for coming out, and have a very good night. Have a safe drive, and unless something earth-shattering happens, I'll see some of you at least on the end of September. All right. Thank you.